Now, on May the 29th, Senator Bwala Tinubu mounted the saddle as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, that was subject, of course, to the overriding decision of the Supreme Court on the various cases pending against his election as such. The major decision taken since his assumption of office is that of the removal of fuel subsidy, which in turn has affected and is still affecting the majority of the people across the country. Good afternoon. Welcome to Standpoint. I am Precious Amayu. Now, for the first half of this conversation, we're going to focus on the administration of President Bwala Tinubu. Now, let's talk about welfare, since the two main points of governance are security and welfare. How well has the policies of this present administration favored the Nigerian people? Security issues is one of the issues this administration also needs to deal with. There's a rising cost of food. The exchange rate, what this administration is also dealing with, and it's having a lot of impact on Nigerians. But let's bring in our guest. To discuss this with me is a public affairs analyst and spokesman. He was also the spokesperson for the Atiku Presidential Campaign Council, Daniel Bwala. Good to have you join us.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's been a while. The elections are over, so we can basically, I know I've seen you on other platforms, but let me welcome you back to the TVC platform.
I've always been on all platforms, inclusive of TVC.
All right, so let's get to the conversation. There are just a lot to discuss with you today, and I know we do not have enough time to cover them, from politics, your politics, the PDP politics, and then to governance. But I want to begin with governance. What do you make of the statement? And that's where I want to really start from. The statement coming from the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, that Nigeria is bankrupt. And he said to the extent that we are paying back, that which was taken. And I want to get your response to that. And then also your response to how Peter Obi also responded to the NSA.
Well, I don't know what Peter Obi people have responded to the NSA, but I feel that the statement by the NSA, with greatest respect, is regrettable and is demarcating, in my view, of the administration itself for the following reasons. Number one, when President Bwala Tinubu campaigned, he campaigned with the knowledge of the situation of Nigeria. And being that he campaigned on the platform of the same party that was in government, he was seized with the detail of the fact of what we are confronted by. So when he took over the office, he was to just go ahead and begin to work and not to throw excuses. That's number one. But number two, even President Bwala Tinubu as a person has consistently said, I asked for the job. The box is on my table. Let's get to work. That means he does not want a situation where excuses will be the order of the day. Then thirdly, he traveled all over the world trying to get foreign investors. There are things you don't see, or else you will scare the foreign investors. Number one, no foreign investor will come to your country to give you money to run your country. When the National Security Advisor said the country was looted by the previous administration and that President Bwala Tinubu doesn't have money to run the country, I feel it is demarcating. Why? Because any foreign investor that wants to come to your country, he wants to be assured that the climate is conducive for investment and that when he invests, there will be return on investment. No investor comes to give you money to run your country. So when you are in government and you're saying that, you're scaring away the very people that President Bwala Tinubu is asking to come. Thirdly, it is weak, in my own point of view, for you to give excuses such as the country was looted. For how long shall we continue to give excuses and excuses and excuses when we ought to move? If you look at the manifesto of APC, I have not seen any place where they said excuses will be part of the mantra. When you take up the mantle, assume responsibility, and get to work. The Nigerian people are not stupid. If you are actually working hard, even if the result is not apparent, the Nigerian people will understand. If you look at globally, that's why there was this global research happen overnight. That is what the people, that's what the people want to hear. And then, but then you need to tell them what are the interventions you are putting in place ahead of the implementation of the decisions in the long term. Because every planning has immediate, mid-term, and long-term. The immediate, most of the time, comes with intervention. Because of the poor state of the country and the hardship the Nigerian people are, going through, that long-term decision is fine, but much more than that is that immediate, which deals with the various interventions that would at least give lee of hope and life to the Nigerian people.
And I will get to the intervention in just a moment, but you mentioned honesty in conversation. Those who have celebrated the NSA for that statement are saying, look, it's because of the honesty in conversation. They have said, look, it is the spirit of accountability and transparency that Nigerians should know what exactly is going on. How do you react to that?
First of all, in my view, it does not fall even within the purview of the office of the NSA to begin to make such statements. You see, the administration of Bwala Tinubu needs to be coordinated, in my view. The media department are the one whose responsibility falls to communicate to the Nigerian people about the workings of the government and about the failings if they want to, tell Nigerian people, or if they want to give plausible deniability or excuses. It is the media. The Office of the National Security Advisor deals with the national security of the country. And most of the times, the duty stops on advisory to the president. So, ordinarily, the national security advisors should not be seen, should not be heard, should be seen but not heard. It means that you have to, as much as possible, limit your presence in the media, limit your appearances in places that have no connection with national security, focus on key instruments that stabilize the country, such as engagement with the various security platforms of the country. And we have quite a number of security platforms. We have the SSS, the NIA, the NCND, the police, various security platforms. And coordinate the various security platforms for the purposes of addressing the national security problem confronting the country. So it did not, those who are applauding him there are two ways. First of all, Nigerians have freedom of expression. But for the most part, we are in a country where people are not honest with leaders. And leaders who are not very careful, you surround yourself with yes men, and they don't tell you the truth. The Office of the National Security Advisor ought not to have issued this statement in the first place. It is the media office of the president that ought to communicate the government. And this administration has the highest number of media appointments since the inception of this republic. In fact, to a point where there is superimposition and interpolation of positions.
Okay, so I just want to give context to where he said it. Maybe that will help the conversation. He actually said it at a summit of chief of the defense intelligence, and he was speaking as to how, with little resources in the country, the president has continued to prioritize the armed forces, and that's why he said it. So I just want to give context to where he said it and why he said it, and then let you continue.
Okay, so let me say this way: the administration of President Buhari that handed over to the administration of President Bwala Tinubu had the highest investment in the security since 1999, and all you need to do is to recall the various investment, the $1 billion to acquire this, the 600 or 500 and something. There was enough investment. But this investment did not yield the required result, which is why you are hearing cases of corruption and all that. Now, this present administration does not have the lack or the paucity of funds to execute that. Now, when you are dealing with intelligence, in my view, intelligence has to do with processing of information. Most of the times, even the investment in intelligence is not one that is communicated to the media. Because again, the enemies of the state can assess the capacity of the government when certain intelligence are leaked, whether ignorantly or knowingly. That is why the world over, even budget on intelligence are shrouded, are hidden. If you look at the SSS, for example, you don't see them going to the National Assembly to defend a budget. They are answerable directly to the president because the national security strength of the country is not to be known by all. So either the meeting ought not to have been covered by the media, or if it was indeed to be covered by the media, he ought not to have said that statement. There are things you could address in that meeting, such as the efforts that the administration is making in coordinating the security platforms to deal with insecurity. And then you can even go to the extent of talking about what you're doing, dealing with illegal mining, dealing with in the Niger Delta, the oil theft and all of that. But you cannot say that this administration, that the previous administration looted the funds to the point that this administration does not have the money to run the government. Is it not this administration that not only sent the main budget, but sent the supplementary budget? This is not the administration that wants to go and borrow. So the issue of money is not the problem. You see, if when a mistake like that is done, if you want to do damage control, there are still ways to do it. It cannot be by defending the indefensible. That is my opinion. And you know, the beauty of democracy is that people have their various opinions. In my view and in my opinion, intelligence matters are matters that as much as possible you keep it under the wrap. If you have to make a defense or excuse for this administration, you have to be careful, because you campaign across the country saying that the administration of Buhari did excellently well and you want to continue from there. You cannot wake up the next day and say the administration looted the fund. Nigerians won't buy that. That's all I'm trying to say. Nigerians won't buy that line of excuse. To me, it is excuse. It's not even reasonability in terms of saying this is what the government intends to do. You should be talking more about what we are doing than why we couldn't do A, B, and C. Because you were not elected to give excuses. You are elected to deal with excuses.
All right, so let's look at some of those indices. Again, we've broken it down in our introduction, is welfare and security. And in terms of security, which you also mentioned, he did give a report he made a statement on that. He said despite the constraints, the security situation in the country had improved significantly. Would that be your assessment?
Well, I will agree with him in part, because at the beginning, we had the security situation worsening. But if you look at it, maybe let's say in the past 1 or 2 months, then you may agree with him that there is improvement in that area. I will also make the case further that because I am a security consultant and I know the problems confronting security platforms, I know for a fact that we are not investing heavily in intelligence collection, because we have been built to believe everything is operations, everything is operations. When you deal with intelligence, you avoid the tendency for you to need more money to execute an operation, because intelligence prevents, because you are gathering sources. Now, since the advent of technology, where you have machines giving you information or intelligence about situation, we have turned our backs from human intelligence. And the world over, when you assess technological intelligence and human intelligence, it has been proven that human intelligence has achieved more in terms of accuracy and in terms of specificity. If you look at America, the reason why they were able to succeed in Afghanistan and the rest of the world is because the guys on ground who were providing the information and dealing with sources in those countries were able to provide accurate information. How were they able to determine that Osama bin Laden was in that place? They've been using technology before and it has been misleading them until they sent human beings and they were able to trace the courier and then get that. So as a country, we should invest more in human intelligence, which means that you have to increase the capacity of those who work in the various security platforms. You have to motivate them. You also have to make funds available for them to recruit sources that will give them credible intelligence. And when you have intelligence ahead of time, you're able to avoid the situation. That's why oftentimes you hear SSS saying that be warned, A, B, and C is going to happen. That's intelligence. But assuming they do not pass the information, they keep quiet until after it has happened, then you will need more money now to be able to go and deal with that situation. So there is a lot that is involved in security and intelligence. But I will also disagree with the National Security Advisor if his assessment is a conclusion that we have dealt with security, because we have massive insecurity in the country at the moment. And as a matter of fact, I will push the argument further to say that hunger and poverty is the worst form of national security problem all over the world. This shooting, this stealing, this robbery, this kidnapping will have their roots to poverty in the land. Because when people are pushed to the wall, then they begin to take a resort to this survival instinct. And survival instinct, if you look at the philosophy of man, they say man by nature is brutish and futile. Once he is pushed to the wall where he has to survive, he has to think of anything he can do. So food security is national security. There is hunger in the land. How is this administration dealing with hunger? I hold the view that the policy of President Buhari in giving and President Bwala Tinubu in giving that 5 billion to the state was misapplied. And why did I say that? Because we have history that suggests that when you give money to governors, you don't see the result. During the COVID, we saw after the NSAS that now led to people now busting various food banks in the country. And you saw food that were supplied by private sectors with intervention also from government to alleviate the poverty of the people. These governors kept it in food bank. Some of them even labeled this food with their campaign logo ahead of election to come in 2-3 years. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ought to have used what we call third party. The same way you use NGO. NGO are more productive and result-oriented than using established institutions like the state. There are ways you can give intervention to the state, but when it comes to dealing with food and insecurity, because the initial 2 billion that was given to the governors, how many governors in Nigeria actually deploy that in giving food to their people? We saw a video of somebody, I think from Ekiti, one of the states in the southwest, where he showed something that looked like a small bag. He said it was given to him and one small money to deal with over 80 people, that he had to do the video in order to save his life. But 2 billion was given to that state. You don't give money directly to the governors because history has taught us they will not deploy this money for the good of the people. So food security, which is national security, has to be dealt with.
We also remember when,
Pardon?
At the very beginning, when the government has said that we're going to put up, intervention measures, to help for those who were really dealing with hardship, which is almost everyone anyway. They had said that, look, they were going to do cash transfer and they had put up, some intervention measures. But people complained and said, you can't bypass the governors. That to almost mean, we're not operating the federal principle and all of that. And so they reverted, had their National Economic Council meeting, and then now the governors were brought in, and then the complaint also is you have given it to the governors, almost as though, look, you can't satisfy anybody. But just generally in terms of the intervention that has been put in place, what's your assessment of it? Is it working? Is it not working? Has progress been made?
Yes, there is no progress in that regard, quite frankly. And the president has to be resolute. The governors in the administration of President Buhari had this back and forth with him until they used their measures in going to the Supreme Court to scuttle what he wanted to do. The greatest problem in Nigeria are the governors. At a better time, we will discuss that. And I will prove to you that governors run countries because they are involved in the appointment of ministers that work with the president, the ambassadors that the president will deploy, the MDA directorate. They are the ones that send National Assembly members. They are the ones that determine people in law enforcement. So in actual fact, the president only has the power of the commander-in-chief, but the governors influence virtually everything in government. And if we want to bring change in Nigeria, the president, and you see the other dichotomy is that the problem is the president will want to win the next election. And so he wants to ponder in their direction. He has to decide between governance and politics. Now, if his decision is governance, then I am of the view that governors cannot help you to achieve interventions. Interventions, that's what I'm saying. Interventions are temporary measures that help in stabilizing the masses of Nigeria. Now, let me give you a good example. In America, when you see Hurricane Katrina, in all these places where they had national disasters, the only role the governors played was in providing information, statistics about the people in the area and all that. But the government of those states were not the ones responsible in deploying the relief materials. It will never work with governors. I'm telling you the truth. If the governors come together in a council of state meeting and tell the president you can't bypass us, yes, he will tell you the extent to which I work with you is give me information and data about the people in your state. But how I intervene with them, why is it that even if you are in the remotest part of Nigeria, NEPA bill will reach you? But when it comes to intervention, it's not reaching. NEPAs, they're in the private sector. Why is it that somebody in the remote part of Nigeria who has account in the banks have the IBM, or what do you call this number they use in identifying people. Yeah. You can identify Nigerians. Those who do not have bank accounts, they have local community banking. Those who don't have local community banking can be accessed through the local government chairman. If you want to deal with relief, you have to avoid governors. Interventions can never work with governors in this country, because history has taught us it's not like we're experimenting it. We're coming from a state and a situation where it has not worked. Doing one thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity.
And in your opinion, because really, however we look at it, everyone is touched by whatever is going on, whether it's the exchange rates or the removal of fuel subsidy. It does look like a lot of people have, that poverty index has widened, and we have more people in it. The government says they are doing all they can to ensure that Nigerians, the intervention for Nigerians. But what do you think is missing in that intervention process and in some of the policies that have been made to help Nigerians at least sustain and businesses sustain?
This is my view. The president made the initial mistake by announcing in the speech that the subsidy has gone. Later we learned, we don't know how true it is, that it was not even in the speech he was to deliver that day that he said extempore, right? Now, because when he said it, the market reacted. And then that's how everything went up. Now, the infrastructure to cushion the effect, because if you are going to remove subsidy, it's going to impact the market. Prices of items will go up. And because the salary of workers has not also increased, it means the people are going to go down. Those who are not in the working force, they are in the natural way of life. When transportation, goods and items go up, it becomes difficult for them to survive. So the mistake was made by not providing the interventions which he is later providing. How do you cure that? How you cure that is to go back to the root. When you are dealing with, for example, Nigerian Labour Congress, you have to close your eyes, close the loopholes where money is being wasted. Somebody even analyzed and said the 140 million per head of the National Assembly members. Take, for example, if you are giving you are buying 140 million worth of vehicle to a senator. That 140, if you times it by 3, that is because 3 senators in a state, and you deploy that in that state, you will deal with poverty. And these public officers already have their cars anyway. But we have wasted a lot of money on areas that has now not impacted our people positively. 2, government has to look at the bloatness, the bloatedness or the bloatness of the government. The President Bwala Tinubu has increased the cabinet. And every cabinet, when you make somebody a minister, the minister will have directors, there has a lot of people under. So you are doing more spending. Are we generating the revenue? Now, I understand that Wale Udun and the CBN governor, they are making efforts. I particularly like what the CBN governor did, talking about this area of arresting the forex, which we are getting a little bit of stability, even though the dollar is still high, because the naira is floated. We are not a manufacturing country, nothing to back the naira. Again, that was the second policy gap. But the trip of Mr. President to Saudi Arabia is a good news if Saudi Arabia will, put action to their words, because it means that we are going to have investment in trade. We are going to have investment in our... So 1 month, he was able to achieve achievable progress. So this is how you will know efficient ministers. There are quite a number who are yet to even know why they are in that office. Now, there was a retreat where they signed performance board. Excellent. How effective, how are you going to manage the office that deals with the monitoring? In my view, the president's decision to make one person, in the person of Hadiza Bwala, is good, but not enough. Because it means that if Hadiza Bwala is compromised, which in Nigeria, it is very likely, then that means you are going to see a lot of ministers getting passes, even when they do not perform in government. So my view is the president ought to have that her office should be coordinated along with the office of the NSA and one other security, either EFCC or DSS, so that whatever performance report or assessment that is going on, these institutions also have a copy. When she's making a recommendation to the president, he already has this data coming from 3 offices, and then he will be able to see how he can assess whether this person has performed or not. 2, the frequency. When are you going to assess it? Are you going to wait till after 6 months? To me, if 6 months is what you are going to give to check the first assessment, it is too late. Because the problems in Nigeria are increasing. And it is not that kind of a situation that requires a long-term assessment. It means it should be every 3 months. But that is even not sufficient. Even in the course of implementation, there must be monitoring and evaluation. Where a minister you don't even have to wait till you get to 3 months before you sack a minister for non-performance. We have seen a lot of ministers. A minister is even saying she will sue the United Nations. When has it happened? She's even a lawyer. The same United Nations that the president is approaching them to get relief. You have some ministers that are making outland. In fact, some are even adding to the promises that is in the manifesto, which we believe has not been implemented. So are you going to make kwashako of Nigerians people with promises? Then there are quite a number of other ministers that are having day and night work. They are working. So Mr. President needs to be frank, reduce the cabinet within a short period of time so as to save costs and then make sure that there is efficiency. What I actually thought the president was going to do, I felt that the president might even make, collapsing of 2-3 ministries and get one efficient minister to manage them. We have seen in administration of Buhari, where some of the ministers they call super ministers, they were able to do something significant. But the politician in the president, took a toll or overcame the governance president by making sure that the politics incorporate everybody. But in incorporating the people, competent people are left out and incompetent people are brought to bear.
But we saw in the Buhari administration how a lot of people said, look, you can't give 3 ministries to one person. It was too much. It wasn't an efficient and effective way to run government. And so that was split. And then people felt, okay, better. But now you are saying it should be collapsed. But you've made very good points in our conversation today. I have little time left. There is no way I'm leaving out your politics because you've made some statements recently in the dailies and in the media about whether you are still an active member of the PDP or not. Are you an active member of the PDP? Are we going to see you move to the APC? What's the state? What's your stand right now politically?
Well, in terms of political leaning, by default, I'm a member of PDP. But in terms of independence of thought and expression, I said I'm an independent. Some people don't know. They feel that if you are independent, you cannot be associated or aligned with a political party. I believe we borrowed this from abroad. If you go to America, Senator Bernie Sanders is a Democrat, but an independent person. Senator Joe Manchin, who has been a dogged Democrat, he said he wants to be an independent because he wants to challenge Joe Biden in the primaries. And then there are people who are independent so they can exercise their thought where, for example, if APC does what is right, I should have the freedom to praise APC. And if PDP does what is wrong, I should have the freedom to criticize PDP. Now, the idea behind being an independent person is that if you are deep and neck deep in PDP, it means that you follow the rules and regulation. And if they say don't talk and you talk, they will say you have violated the rules and regulation. If they say don't do this and you do, but as an independent person, you assume the role of a patriotic citizen. And to me, the problems in Nigeria is so much that we don't need partisanship in dealing with that. We need patriotism. Then I now saw a video that leaked out that I have joined APC. It was so shocking. That video that circulated was a video taken sometime in October last year during the campaign. Some of my friends from APC, we met around 1:30 a.m. and they started singing, "Oh, your mandate, we shall start." Then the video now got leaked that recently I joined APC. That's why I had to do a video yesterday from England, and said, I don't have the celestial power to be both in Nigeria and in England. If I am going to join APC, I will be the one to announce I'm joining. Nobody will announce it for me. When I left APC to PDP, nobody announced it for me. I did the announcement. And I don't have any issue against APC. I have the right, any day I feel, I can go to APC. But as of today, I am a member of PDP, but I'm an independent politician. That
you return to the APC?
Pardon?
I was asking if there is a possibility that someday you return to the APC.
The future is only God that knows. Today, I am a member of PDP I have expressed my displeasure about a lot of activities of key leaders of the party. And some of them are they are trying to work with Tinubu in order to frustrate Atiku Abubakar so that they will go back, take up the structure and fight Tinubu. And they thought Tinubu is stupid, that he doesn't know what their plans are. Now, if they continue that kind of a situation and they take over the management of it, certainly I won't be there. Now, as to whether there is a prospect of me joining APC, I have been in APC for 8 years. One of my successes is the fact that President Bwala Tinubu today is the president because people like us worked for him. When I was working for President Bwala Tinubu in APC, majority of the people that are with him today were not with him. In fact, some of the key elements working with him today who come from the Southwest, we are in a different direction of somebody from the Southwest. And to tell you that as at that time, even the chances that President Bwala Tinubu will become flag bearer was not there. That's why he had to cry out in Ogun State and roar like a lion. People like us, I was all over. Even when television houses were cancelling and blacklisting me because of my vocal support for President Bwala, I will switch to TikTok. I will use all material that are available to me. If I'm committed to a cause, I give it 100. I don't give 80 or 30 or 90. But as of today, I have not joined APC. It should be clear. When I will join, if I will join, I will be the one that will announce that I will join. Gaslighting is not the right thing to do.
Mr. Bwala, I have to wrap up this conversation, but my producer is saying I do have to wrap. But I just want to ask you, because it's been on the news that the PDP is trying to form a coalition with the Labour Party and the NNPP. Is that a coalition that you think will work? Considering that these are three, whether it's Peter Obi, whether it's Atiku or Kwankwaso, these are top men in politics who wants to become president.
Well, one thing about coalition is you need to look at how APC tried to defeat PDP when they were in their various parties and they failed at different asking. They had to form a coalition to defeat. It is the situation that is repeating itself now. It will take a coalition to unseat President Bwala Tinubu. But President Bwala Tinubu is not sleeping, in my view, because what he is doing, he will not admit, is that with it strategically, he's stifling those parties so that they will not be coordinated enough to come under a coalition. I am in support of coalition so we can strengthen democracy. But I said it will take a coalition to be able to defeat President Bwala Tinubu, especially because you are seeing at the moment some of the people, like I complained to you, in PDP who are considered as leaders of the party already working for him. So he's not sleeping, but it will take a coalition. And we need the coalition to strengthen democracy. We need the coalition to bring competition. In anything you're doing in life, if there is no competition, there will not be effectiveness. Let me tell you, the discussion around coalition will make Tinubu to stand on his feet and deliver to the Nigerian people. The minute that coalition thing is not there, he believes it's there. And then Nigeria will become like the Communist Party in China. It will become a one-party state. We need a viral economy, a viral democracy, where there will be majority rule and the protection of minority rights so that everybody will want to please the Nigerian people so that they will be eligible to be voted for.
And we'll see how that plays out, and we'll see how we're watching you. We're watching you to see some of the statements you will make and where you will lean politically. Thank you so much for talking to us.
You're watching me. Watch Nigeria, don't watch me.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Daniel Bwala.